This is the 269th episode of CloudFocus Weekly for the third week of August, 2017. This episode is titled, Dream the Dream. CloudFocus Week is brought to you by Clone This User. Duplicates you'll love. Clone an existing Salesforce user with the click of a button via the desktop or Salesforce One mobile, available for free on the App Exchange, or go to www.clonethisuser.com.
What's a dub?
Dub. Put the dubs on my car. It's anything over 20 inches.
Scrub a dub.
That's more of the childhood thing to say, but yes. Well, I am your host, as
So you think.
And joining me, clearly, not even waiting for his own intro, taking liberties 269 times in a row, is Justin Ilstein. Justin, how are you doing?
Dreaming the dream, baby.
Woof, that was a lot of podcasts in July.
Sure was.
We were pumping out the podcast.
July. We had to take a couple of weeks off in August.
Oh, God, I know. We just did so many podcasts. Anyway, I will say, from looking at the statistics and looking at some of the feedback, those were very, very successful podcasts.
On the Twitters?
On the Twitters and also on just the watching how many they were downloaded. They combined, that month was a very high month in terms of podcast downloads. So it was a content that clearly struck home with somebody. So cool. Glad that worked. And
very cool.
Good idea, Justin.
Thank you.
You have one every year.
That's once in a while.
All right.
Happens.
So we're back after a couple weeks off, and it's August, and probably won't be podcasting next week because I'm on vacation towards the end of the week. So we have some catching up to do because while we were GTDing, again, from July, we were skipping all the blog posts. So we have a myriad of blog posts.
A plethora of pinatas.
Various different things, various different blog posts just piling up. So we'll talk through those.
Look at this first one. Very apropos.
We'll get to that. And then we'll also talk about, we both attended our first Midwest, our first Dreamin'.
It was my first Dreamin' event.
It was my first Dreamin'.
Really? You hadn't gone to any of the other ones?
I had not
anywhere?
done any Dreamin'.
Any like Philly Force?
That's not a Dreamin'.
French Touch.
No Dreamin's.
That's a thing. French
Touch.
It's a little weird.
I think it's
a weird name.
Condom.
I think it's a weird name. French Touch, isn't it? That's what it is, right? I'm not making that up.
Maybe it's Touché?
No, there's Surf Force, which is cool, and that's in Ireland.
But why Surf Force?
Well, I think they're on the coast, like they're in the middle of nowhere, Ireland.
Oh, okay.
So they're like just
like
on the coast, and they
Potato Force.
Maybe they go surfing in the morning.
Guinness Force, Cabbage Force. These things I could think of, but
so stereotypical.
Well, because I think of Surf Force like if you're doing it like on the California beach, or
I would have thought Southern California, but
right.
Maybe Ireland's known for
surfing
in certain locations.
Every time I think, in fact, I went to see the Beach Boys last night.
You were thinking Ireland.
I was
and they came
Ireland
with California.
I wish they all could be Ireland girls.
Right, Irish girls.
Irish girls. Yeah, sorry. It was a lot of Beach Boys.
Yeah, you saw the Mike Love Beach Boys, which I give a thumbs down to.
Why?
Because it's Brian Wilson's band, not Mike Love's band.
Whatever.
And Brian Wilson's touring also, and you could see Pet Sounds, which is awesome.
He's doing Pet Sounds, and the other one's doing whatever, Butterfly, or Pet Sounds is one. He's doing Mike
Love's probably just doing Beach Boys' greatest hits, Surfin' Safari.
Oh, yeah, he did a lot of Surfin' Safari.
Yeah, and if you want to see the good stuff, you go see Brian Wilson, who can't sing anymore, but they have other singers.
Who was always named is actually going to see that one as well.
She'll enjoy that one more.
We'll
I think.
See. Well, with that, I will
better
check back.
Better music.
I will check back. I'm guessing it's the same music.
It's not.
She heard the two songs she wanted to hear. That's it. That's all.
Oh, well, maybe she liked this one. But I don't know.
Yeah.
The other one's better though.
All right,
guaranteed.
So let's
Can we just talk about that? Can we just talk about concerts?
I've been going to a ton of concerts.
Music.
Like this.
Yeah, you've been going to like.
I've been going to a ton, and I have more coming. I have Paul
Who'd you
McCartney
see? I'm going to see Paul McCartney. Are we going the same night? When are you going?
We can check our calendars.
When are you going to Paul McCartney?
I don't know.
Where are you seeing him? I'm seeing him at the Barclays.
At the Barclays as well.
Oh, look at us with the same agenda here. I'm seeing it on Tuesday, September 19th.
I'm seeing it. I have to get to it in my calendar. Search for it. I'm seeing
I'm telling you, it's the
What?
19th. The 19th. We're seeing it the same night.
Same night.
Oh, we can travel together.
Come rob our houses.
We can travel there together.
Maybe we should edit this out of the podcast.
No, who cares? No one's robbing our houses.
All right.
Which house you robbing?
Should I tell? I know it's true. Which house will you be in?
At
We
that
talk
point,
about all the things that are going on in
I
your
don't
life or
know
no?
that.
Now
Well,
you feel a little
this is
uncomfortable.
our podcast.
Well, it's not our podcast. It's the podcast of the people. This is
the
really
people's
the
podcast?
China's Republican podcast. It's for the people.
You're being hacked right now. We have all the information in your phone, whatever you're listening to this on.
And thanks for downloading. All right.
And we're done.
Let's move on.
Cool.
So we're gonna
Can't wait to listen to this on my Sonos system
Oh God.
when I get my Sonos.
We'll have that discussion as well. Well, you can make that your pick.
I'm not going to make it because I don't own it yet.
That has never stopped you.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean,
You've
today's
picked
pick,
things
I've
that
never used today's
Yes.
pick.
And you've
I'm
picked
just
things
making
that
it.
people have just said, hey, this is cool. And I looked at the App Exchange listing and it looks cool. So I'm picking it.
Right.
That's a
when
quote.
I get my Sonos and set it all up and show you how cool it is, then I'll make my pick.
I was out with a friend out in Long Island, and he has it set up, and he was doing all the things on his phone and like changing it and everything, and it looked pretty cool. I actually forgot to ask him. I was going to say, hey, like, because everybody who's looking at it, I know he loves it. So I've never heard anybody say I don't.
Everyone
like Sonos.
I know who has it loves it, and
I've
it
never heard
sounds
anybody,
great.
right.
So
My thing to you, and now we're getting to our little family fight. I just said I wouldn't personally go get a Sonos until I know and compare it with an actual shipping hardware from Apple, which is coming out in December, which is the HomePod. What I've heard from just tangentially through people who have, seen both or actually been in a room with it, which is like 100 people in the world, have said the sound quality of the HomePod blows anything on the planet away right now. Again, that's just people sitting in these things. I'm waiting for it to come out.
So these people who all work for Apple.
No, reporters. They're all the reporters.
All the reporters.
And so, go read you can
I'm
read
not
them.
going to do it because I'm not buying that thing because it doesn't do what Sonos does.
Well, that would be my other point to you. I don't know what it does until it comes out. Apple is very good at, especially because they have an iPhone coming out, a new iPhone, a new watch, and what do they also release? Oh, a new Apple TV, the 4K Apple TV. All that's coming out in the fall.
Can't wait.
Before
Can't
the
wait to buy that.
The HomePod. So my thing is it possible that they add new things into the 3 devices that we have on ourselves all the time, plus a device that we have?
I'm sold on Sonos.
Okay, right.
And I'm not going to wait for that thing.
Right. Regrets will be had.
No, they won't.
Let's get back
I won't
to...
regret this decision.
All right.
I don't even want to do these blog. Can we just talk for like 10 minutes and be done with this podcast?
Really? People do not download this just to
yes,
hear us
they
talk.
do. They don't
No,
care what we
they
say
don't.
as long as we say things. Things have been said.
No, let's actually get to some content. We don't
All
have
right,
to
what
go
do you
into
want
each
to
one
What do you
of
want to
these.
do? Talk about family GTD after we just talked about GTD for the last million years?
Let's just mention that it exists. I did write an article or a blog post, I guess, talking about how to incorporate GTD. So after the huge GTD series, this was actually published in the middle of our GTD series, sponsored by the GTD series. It's something people have asked me a lot. So in my GTD travels, so I just posted a blog post about family GTD, how you work it, how do you get your family to get on board. And again, if you listen to our podcast, which you probably have, and listen to, I think I cover most of this, so we don't have to go over it. But it's definitely something that, it's like anything. If you get into something, it doesn't matter if you're a sports fan, something, you kind of want other people to get into that same thing. And so this is tough because it's this. I found some people very resistant to this. I have a mutual friend of ours who I won't name, who I've actually said after many times of being the anti GTD person.
Have initials.
EM.
All right.
All right.
I'll figure that out over the next minute.
Yeah, you might. I actually said, I'm giving you this book because you need, like I can tell you need this book. It's not just like, oh, it's whatever. It's like you need GTD. It's you're failing in certain areas and you need this. Like a lot of just stuff. But anyway, so Family GTD, go read it. It's on blog.arkusinc.com. Boop, boop.
I haven't figured out who that is, by the way.
Well, that's because insult of Justin here. Next, speaking of insults, the partner who shall never be named.
Speaking of self-congratulatory blog posts.
He's been blogging for like 20 years now, hasn't he?
He's kind of been blogging since before blogging was blogging.
I think he invented blogging.
He invented writing blogs with pencil and paper.
Right. And you just hang them outside your window so people can read them.
Blogging.
That's blogging.
Yeah.
Anywho, he writes on the risks of self-implementing Salesforce, which is interesting because it's, I don't know, it's a strange topic to say what are the risks, but there are risks, and we come across it all the time with our clients. We have clients who come into us who kind of tried themselves, and it's an evaluation. Salesforce in some ways is very easy to set up, but in some ways, if you don't do it right, I mean, you can not get the reporting you want out of it. You can mess data up. You can set things up so it just doesn't work, and you get terrible adoption. So I'm not saying that everybody has to hire a great consulting firm like Arkus to do their implementation, but there's definitely some risks. So he calls some out here. And you want to call out as one or two?
Not really.
Really? Well, he did talk about extended timeline, poor adoption, time cost without experience. So here's the thing. If you want a blog post to put in front of somebody, say, hey, look, we're thinking about self-implementing. Maybe we should pay somebody. Like, here's a good blog post to put in front of them. The other thing I would say is sometimes paying a professional will actually pay off in the long run, right? So you could do your own plumbing, but if you mess it up and it leaks through the 7 floors and ruins everybody else's apartment, and you end up having, $100,000 in lawsuits, and and your insurance goes to the roof, yeah, probably been worth it just to pay a plumber. If you electrocute yourself, you try to defend yourself in court, and you go to jail.
That doesn't work.
Maybe you should have gotten a plumber. So anyway, the risks of self-implementing Salesforce by the partner shall not be named. We have a lot of blog posts to get to, so we'll say that's on blog.arkusinc.com, published a couple weeks ago. So go see it. You can also search. Our search engine, by the way, is pretty good on the old Arkus Inc. Website and blog. Next up, Ashley writes about utilizing Salesforce Ohana. I think that's the first time Ohana has made it into a blog post on Arkus.
Probably.
To become a successful Salesforce professional.
Hashtag Ohana.
Hashtag Salesforce Ohana. Hashtag Ohana. Hashtag why aren't you Ohana-ing?
Is it Ohana-ing?
Ohana-ized?
Oh.
So I will say, while I love some of the concepts of Ohana, I have found it starting to get a little bit overused. It's kind of like a growing trend with Salesforce. It's like we have something we like, so we overuse it until it doesn't mean what it should mean. I have used it when I haven't felt Ohana. I like to say, your non-responsiveness to my email for 6 weeks, that feels not Ohana. Hashtag not Ohana. Hashtag why not Ohana. Hashtag where is the Ohana.
I don't use it.
I like the concept.
Not my thing.
I like the familyism. I like everybody working together on things, but sometimes it feels like it's kind of being misused. Anyway, Ashley writes a good article really about just sort of how to use all the resources. It could have been utilizing Salesforce resources to become a Salesforce success.
I just use the word community because that's what it is.
Right.
I don't need to call it anything but what it is, which is community.
I think they're going to rebrand that.
Yeah.
You're going to get Ohana licenses.
Yeah.
How many Ohana licenses do you want? Do you want partner Ohana or do you want customer Ohana?
Well, let's redefine the word customer too, because if they're your Ohana, they're not your customer.
Your family Ohana. I want family Ohana licenses. I'll take 150 family Ohana licenses. And
can you imagine someone's head spinning? Like, what is this Ohana nonsense license?
It's the Ohana license.
Imagine someone trying to sell that too. It's like, you need like about 2,000 Ohana logins per month. And it's like, what are you even saying? What is that? I mean, really.
I know. It's just funny.
I just don't like it. It's a rebrand of something that's been working for a very long time, which is the community.
You don't like
the Salesforce
word?
Community. Yeah, I don't. It's an unnecessary thing.
Huh.
It's completely unnecessary. And it's also a way for people to pander.
So,
Thank you, my Ohana. No. No.
Hey, I'm sorry.
Not your Ohana.
Aren't I the grumpy man on this
Usually,
podcast?
but this thing...
So Ohana gets you. So Astro is like my...
Astro's your thing.
I'm after Astro. Like not,
Ohana's mine.
Hashtag not on my computer.
Hashtag Ohana, not a thing for me.
Really?
Community.
Just call it what it is.
It is what it is. It's a community. It's
Well,
not
Ohana
a
is a little bit bigger than that.
No.
I mean, it does mean family, but the sense of Ohana, if you've watched Lilo and Stitch, it means never being left behind. So Ohana means family, and family means never being left behind. It's a thing from Lilo and Stitch. Go watch it.
So
it's in
yet
Hawaii.
another thing derived from a cartoon is what you're saying?
Pretty much.
Perfect.
By the way, I flipped on. I was gonna watch some soccer on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
I flipped through the channels, and I saw a new Saturday morning cartoon, Astro and Friends. You seen that?
I have.
Oh my goodness, it's
There's
so good.
Astro and the Yeti and the this and the goat.
Appy
Appy's there with his app exchange apps.
and Goaty does some good
His
stuff.
ISV stuff.
Oh,
It's cool.
we're not gonna survive
We
the
are
rest of this year.
not. We are so terrible. We're awful people.
Anyway,
sorry.
so
people.
she does mention some of the things, blogs, Salesforce MVPs, which is true, help and training library, which I'm finding kind of flips back and forth. I find when I'm helping somebody, I kind of do both. I shoot them both now. I say use Trailhead as sort of a training mechanism, but if you need to learn how to do something, like here's the steps, help and training, that's where you go. Because Trailhead doesn't give you the steps to do stuff. It does, but it's kind of, again, it's in the material. It's like going to a how-to guide versus opening up the history of the United States. It's like, oh, okay. Anyway, anything else to say on that?
I think I've
You think you've
dug about
a
4
big
feet
enough,
deep.
well, you're only 4, what? What did we learn today?
I'm not for anything.
Oh, 5'5"? So you got a foot to
5
go.
I
Keep
think-
digging.
I think my driver's license says I'm 5'4".
5'4".
I think.
So
I'm
you have a
unsure.
foot to go. So keep
I'm
digging.
unsure what the license
How much
says
do you
on
hate
it.
Ohana? Just tell me.
Like 4.
Out of 10?
No, I just don't. I feel like the word is a way to pander to Salesforce. Thank you, Ohana.
Oh, you see it as a way for outside people to kind of get good things from Salesforce by saying,
Oh, this Ohana is so good. Thank you. Really?
it's also a type of sausage, by the way, Ohana.
Or it's like, thanks, Salesforce, or thank you, community surrounding Salesforce. Like, they've created this word that doesn't need
Not
to
created
exist.
it. It's an existing word.
They've created a
Marketing message around a
word
concept.
that just doesn't need
Didn't
to
create the
be.
word. Stop
It
saying-
doesn't need to be there.
Stop saying created words. Not created
didn't
words.
create a word.
It's been around for hundreds of years.
Sure, probably more, but it's like I see it as a way of being like, I wouldn't be where I was if not for my Ohana, and it's like, really? I mean, true, I guess.
Okay, that's it. It's now a 6-foot hole. You're good. You can stop now. You're actually in the hole, and
I'm in the
you
hole.
can't get out of it.
And there's dirt, and it's getting dark in here.
I'm gonna push in Astro, so you can play with it.
Yeah, but I'm like.
So
I'm like
speaking of which, I
Black
did
Mamba.
publish a. Oh no, we'll talk about that next week. All right, let's move off. Next up, you just want to get to yours.
I didn't want to. I said let's stop 10 minutes ago.
Next up on the blogosphere. Oh, that sounded nice. Pep Up Tech Salesforce Bootcamp. A rewarding Ohana experience. Oh, wait, no, you didn't.
What
Did you put
what
Ohana in here, though?
I wrote in here.
Oh my God, you did.
I did. What did I write?
I just searched for it. The Salesforce community, comma, or Ohana, as it's now transitioned to being known as,
Right,
is
and
as
then I
strong
never-
as expansive as ever.
Then I never used it again.
Hashtag Ohana.
Then I
hashtag
never
love
used the word
everybody.
again. I used
Can you
community.
talk about your blog post?
Just
since I have
do
you
a
on?
find for the word community.
Okay.
How
go ahead.
many Ohanas did you find in my blog post?
1,
How many communities did you find?
10.
Exactly, because that's what it is. It's a community.
Oh,
of
sorry,
people.
communication. So 9.
Okay, fine. I don't know why
9.
you'd search for
and you link to
communications.
Salesforce Success Community, so it was 8 because you just it's a link.
That's a real thing.
But the link.
Well, it's not
Can
the
you
Salesforce.
please
It's not the Salesforce Ohana.
Do you want to talk about
community.
your experience or not?
Yeah, I had a great experience.
Well, tell people so they're not going to read the blog. No one reads.
Yeah, you're right. So I've mentioned Pep Up Tech on this podcast before.
Yes.
And
you have.
We are sponsors of theirs.
Yes, we have.
We've sponsored events. We've made some charitable contributions to them. And as part of that has been volunteering. And I had this extremely rewarding experience that I wanted to share with the Ohana about actually being a lead teacher during one of their 4-day boot camps here in New York City, which was held at Monroe College in the Bronx. So Pep Up Tech, for those, just a little bit of background, it's all about getting underrepresented individuals into technology and into the technology industry. So I went and taught for a full day on a Saturday, where there were 48 students showed up on a Saturday to learn about Salesforce. They were primarily IT students or IS students. 95% of the group was made up of that major, and I had a great time meeting all these students, sharing with them my passion for Salesforce, my story about how I got into Salesforce, what it's like to be. About me? No, what it's like to be.
You didn't tell this true story.
Did I talk about you? I did, because you're part of the story.
All right, good. I was supposed to say in that story.
So, talked about what it's like to be an admin. Talked about what it's like to be. I was really there to talk to them about what it's like to be an SI.
Did you teach or did you just talk?
I talked, and then I put Trailheads into context. So I taught using Trailhead as my curriculum.
You do this, but hey, let me explain how you do this in the real world.
Right. So here's Trailhead, which is going to teach you how to do something, a use case. But let's talk about what this really means, and creating relationships or lookup relationships versus master detail relationships, and why you would do one versus the other. Then explaining in real world terms using like accounts contacts as like a lookup type of relationship or a one-to-many. And they get it. They understand databases. These are IS students. So it was just a different way of getting people involved in Salesforce. And I walked out of there with a great sense of, I guess I was just really happy and proud, and felt very rewarding that I was able to share my experience with students who were all, just all ages, all a super diverse group of people. So it was very rewarding for me.
Awesome.
And Trailhead really was super helpful, I gotta say. I mean, to run a class where you're teaching Salesforce and to have this curriculum just built for you, and you just give it context, is truly incredible. So thanks to the Trailhead team, because that's really an awesome platform that they're building.
I wonder how. I'm not a computer major. I was a computer programmer, but everything I've done is self-taught. I think I've been in very few classes over my long experience here. But I wonder how people who come from a traditional, like you said, database design, and like they come from that traditional training, right?
Yeah.
Where like I have a friend of mine who does database courses. He teaches database courses and how to build them and whatever. Actually, I sat in on one of his courses once just because it was fun. I think we went out to dinner afterwards. But anyway, I wonder if coming from that traditional, very traditional kind of computer training, if you flip over to using something like Trailhead, which again in some ways is really well done, right? It's has all these things and paths and free and checks your work, and really don't need an instructor per se. It's funny in times, right? It has a sense of humor, so it's not like a dry database book, right?
It's not a textbook.
I have a textbook on database design that about 4 sentences you're asleep. It's like third normal, you're asleep.
Right.
So it's supposed to be kind of keeping your attention, and with tricks and even the quizzes and things, they're kind of funny. It's like, get a free hat. No, that's not the one. So it's got a humor to it. I wonder though, do traditional programmers or people coming out of these programs, do they find it too kiddish, like too, like not enough serious? Like, I don't know.
I did have the chance to talk to a number of the students, obviously one-on-one, and afterwards everyone wanted to come talk, and there were some that were like, I'm a front-end programmer, I have built websites, I've built apps where I've had to do the back end and the front end, and they were actually, this is more a Salesforce thing than a Trailhead thing, but they were very appreciative of where you get to start. Your entry point is, you're so far ahead with Salesforce because you have everything built for you. Right. And you just start putting fields into objects. And then I was telling him, I'm like, if you're a front end programmer, well, Lightning, that's for you. And also you could kind of, for the most part, do whatever you want. You can do it in whatever language you want. Just, tie the things together using Apex classes and, do your thing in whatever JavaScript framework you please. And, he was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, wouldn't have even necessarily thought of that. So there's room to grow for Trailhead to bring it to people who don't just want to learn Apex or learn Visualforce, but want to learn different front-end frameworks and tie it to Salesforce as, the back end or, the process engine, if you will. And they, I think they were, for the most part, pretty into it. It was pretty easy for them to set up and understand and get. There are some issues at times with Trailhead. Just the way it works is, when you're signing up for something, when you do like the social sign up, you don't really know your username. Sometimes you need it.
Right.
Sometimes you need that.
I always use my own account.
Well, I
don't do this.
I do the dev org, and then, but then when I'm doing a project or anything, I spin up a playground from it. I don't do it in my dev org. I do not, because sometimes they
you can mess it up, I know.
Really conflict with each other, and I don't.
It depends what it is, but generally I use for every of my 50 something badges, badge dropping, drop the badge mic, to your 20 10. How many do you have? Like 5. I've so far I've only used that. I've never done a spin up org because I don't know. You go in, but you're right. You kind of install stuff. Sometimes you have stuff. I did that Einstein cat thing, and that installed a bunch of stuff. So sometimes it can break if you're trying to do it, but
especially when you're doing the super badge stuff and it's very complicated, and you sometimes have to. Pro tip: incognito mode. Just go incognito and you're fine.
He's talking about the Chrome ability to go incognito, which means it's two different sessions of the same browser, so it doesn't see the other session.
Just go there. You're always in better shape when you do that, because you're logged into Trailhead in one session, and then the playground sort of is another one, so it gets very strange.
So that's Pep Up Tech. So that's on the blog.arkusinc.com.
Yeah, go read about it.
Last one before we head off to some of our dreamins. Amy writes about, and actually, not actually. It's like I don't expect. Actually, like I'm
sort of smart. Thanks, Amy.
I'm so surprised.
Thanks, Amy. So
what
smart.
I find interesting. So little kimono opening, if you guys can bear it. We used to be, when we had the blog, we used to have sort of a blog master, and that person kind of controlled the content and controlled the flow of who did what and when. And a year ago or 2 years ago, I said, enough. We are adults. That's part of our policy. Like, I only hire adults. And everybody should be able to do their own thing and come up with their own content and write good stuff and know when they're going to do it and blah, 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 blah. And we talked about all GGG stuff. And we did it about, I think maybe over more than a year ago, because he didn't Blogmaster last year. So this is maybe a year and a half. And what I've liked about it is that the content sometimes is like all over the place, but it's true to them. It's true to what they want to write, meaning we're not saying, Amy, write about Salesforce sandboxes. And where'd that voice come from? Or there's one coming up. There's one coming up about wellness, or again, it's sort of just where people hit their stuff. Some of them are trending more technical. Some of them are trending more community-based. I really like it.
Ohana-based?
No. We'll come up with a better thing. But anyway, let's be real. About Salesforce sandboxes.
Because I don't want to be fake about it, Amy. I want to be real.
So this is something. So it's a great article. I'm actually not blog post. I would say go read this. This is not something we should just like pick two things. We should talk about sandbox strategy, and this is what this talks about, and sort of decision making around, hey, there's a speed versus a correct way. In a correct environment, you should, because especially now with partial, now that you have a free partial for enterprise and above, you should be having a sandbox strategy. There's no reason. Before, with just devs accounts, like, well, there's no data, it's difficult, I have to populate it. But now with partials, you kind of have very little excuse, except for it takes more time, and sometimes it's a pain in the tuk-tuk. So, like, you could go, and that's both a Thai restaurant in my neighborhood and a butt.
Is the restaurant a butt?
Everything but. So I would say... What was I going to say? Oh, so for adding something simple, doing a simple change, it sometimes feels like, why am I going to log in Sandbox, add the change, publish it, go through the process, and while change sets in some ways are so amazing, in some ways they have not been touched in many, many, many years. Like, when's the last time you saw release notes with anything to do with change sets other than we've added these 4 new metadata or new APIs or something? It's the interface is still the same, the way to search is still the same, and it needs a huge overhaul. Like, it needs an overhaul because it's not, for complex stuff, you can spend a lot of time trying to put it all together and sending it up and validating it and then having it not validate and coming back and having to pick apart.
I know this is a small in the scheme of things, but yesterday I did...
In the schema of things?
In the schema of things. Yesterday I did a deploy with like, I don't know, 120-something components, and boy, was that a pain to put together.
I did one with 222 the other day.
It's a pain. But in the scheme of things, that's actually a small deploy.
Right.
Like, if you're doing big enterprise deploys, you've got thousands potentially.
And, you come up with strategies. Should you be doing smaller deployments? Should you be building smaller packages? It depends if you need to go, like, is it all or nothing kind of deployment, or is it I can push some things ahead of others? Dealing with the profiling, you can make mistakes and things can disappear. You can pull the wrong resource, overwrite stuff. Anyway,
there's lots of good resources in this blog post.
Yes.
There's links to ideas. There's links to understanding how change sets work and what can and cannot be deployed. There's links to other tools like the Ant tool. There's links to limits around sandboxes. There's tons of not only just great writing and content in here, there's also amazing links to other resources, even a trailhead about change management.
I find the one that always strikes me as the things that I can't put in deployment, and then I wonder, like, what?
Yesterday
what'd you hit?
So I modified the user profile page layout.
Right.
Not the user record, but the user profile.
Gotcha.
No. Had to just rebuild that one.
Right.
Unless it's hidden somewhere.
The biggest mistake I've seen happen, or the biggest mistake that I think people don't understand about sandboxes, is you can't push data.
Yeah.
So I've seen people go through and like build out knowledge in a sandbox, like build out hundreds of knowledge articles. Now that can be migrated, but they're like, oh, can we just push the knowledge now that I was like, no, that's data. You can't push data. You can push the configuration around it, but I've seen that.
Standard fields.
Also, I think doing
profiles.
I've tried it doing different ways, bigger deployments. I just do versions. Like I do a version, get enough, and then validate, do another, kind of keep adding to it so I can kind of figure out
the last good change to change sets, probably about a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago, which was when they let you run specific tests.
Yes, that was a good one.
That was a great addition as opposed to running every test.
The one thing I cannot stand, and it's still in Lightning, I don't understand, this seems like 4 lines of code, is do not show me a link to something that when I click on it, it tells me it's not there.
Hey, you want to move on to Move by Streaming?
Sure.
That was my way of speeding this up.
Oh, okay.
Because we're done with blogs. So, hey, we went to Move by Streaming.
We went to Chicago.
We did.
We met with lots of people. We had lots of meetings. We went to a few sessions. How many sessions did you go to?
1.
I think I went to like 2 if you count the keynote.
If you count the keynote, I went to 2.
I would say I think that's, again, as I've been in this business a long time. It's tiring to think about.
like 47 years?
77 years. So I find the session stuff kind of harder to sort of get too jazzed about, but I love the people process. I love the people process and product, Marcus Lamotis. I love the just catching up with people, because this is a community that I've been around for a long time, and so I'm always meeting new people and seeing people I haven't seen since Dreamforce, I haven't seen since Trailhead, or haven't seen since Destination Success, or haven't seen since the user group. So I find that the best part of any of these events I go to. It's like I would now put that as a top. Learning is now way at the bottom, because I find the resources for learning, especially with Trailhead now, learning anything is kind of in Trailhead. Like someone telling you how to do something in a session is less. Although again, there were things in this that would never be in a Trailhead. So it was held in Chicago over 2 days. For those who don't know, it's a community-led conference.
The first of its kind, I believe.
And this is the first and the biggest. So it was like 600 people. Again, all sponsored by companies, but
there was an expo floor.
There's an expo. It's a day and a half of content. And it takes if you wanted to quick win it, it's mini Dreamforce. 600 people, day and a half. Content around Salesforce.
Yeah. Salesforce
speaks. They have people come from Salesforce. They had, and they do some of the similar things that Salesforce does. That was my feedback to them when I gave feedback. I gave it both because we had Sam, who works at Arkus, was one of the people helping organize it. I gave her this feedback. I gave it on the survey as well. I think one of the things that I kind of expected was not to sort of follow the Salesforce script. I wish they had sort of said, hey, we're a community-led conference. We don't have to follow the script of what Salesforce has done for whatever. Let's make it different. Let's either make the content different. Let's make the way it works different. I think they just kind of took the template, right? Keynote, session, lunch, keynote, session, happy hour. Like, it just, I wish they, both in content and what they were presenting and in how they did it, I wish they had taken a more community aspect to it and kind of done something that Salesforce isn't going to do. I think that would have been more interesting, because then I'd be like, oh, right, this isn't Dreamforce. This is how would I know? If you didn't know, again, you'd know because it's Dreamforce, but how would you know? It's kind of the same thing. There's sessions and starting in 15 minutes is Quick's Not Code, led by blah, blah, blah. Yes, they're all community-led people, but they're kind of doing the Salesforce content stuff. So I think that'd be my feedback. Otherwise, it's really cool. Like, what an amazing thing that a community that this Salesforce ecosystem is big enough to not only have Salesforce, the company, do this, but that people by themselves want to do this and build their own conferences.
What's this ecosystem you speak of? You mean the Ohana?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
I don't speak
Isn't
Hawaiian.
this an Ohana-led? No. Everyone in the room's part of the Ohana.
Yeah, all right. That's like 7 feet now. You got there. Keep going, and you're never.
I'm waiting for you to get. Oh, you took it off of here. I see what you did.
Oh,
you're gonna bury yourself next time.
Oh, with my idea?
On CloudFocus, whenever's next time.
No, in episode 270.
Right.
Coming up next week.
Next episode, Jason buries himself.
I don't think I'll bury myself in that. I think that's pretty obvious. Everybody's whatever. Anyway, what are your thoughts?
I was a little underwhelmed by
Hold on,
the
let me
whole
give you
experience.
let me give you a new shuttle. Let me give you a new shuttle.
Ooh,
slip.
New shuttle.
A new shovel.
A new shovel.
Because that shovel's about to break as you hit granite.
How many shovels? You just said a new shuttle. That's a new shovel. All right. It was my first streaming event.
Ditto.
I thought it would be a little bigger, to be honest with you.
Really?
Like, yeah.
600 people is a lot of people.
I know, but it's like 3 years running, and they've got, like, it was the start of it, and now they're just all over the place. I thought that they would have, it's pretty central. It's in Chicago. I thought they'd have more people there. That was just my gut. I thought there'd be at least 1,000 people there. It was a little amateurish.
Oof. Keep going.
Sorry, this is the deal. You want to be talked about on this podcast, you're gonna get it. Good, bad,
Next time,
indifferent.
Justin gets banned from Dreamins.
Well, I mean, how on from 1 to 10? How is that opening keynote?
I thought the opening keynote, they had a lot of technical issues.
That's what I meant by amateurish.
Well, I'm going to break it down. The conference was run fine. There were technical issues, some of which could have been the hotel, the AV of the hotel. I thought the content, this is what I said before, I thought the content was kind of just rote content from Salesforce as opposed to let's take a different approach. We are not Salesforce. We can say and do things that are different.
We can say whatever we want.
That's right.
Like this podcast does.
Right. CloudFocus Conference.
CloudFocus
2019.
Conference. We say whatever we want. Show up.
Pick up a shovel.
Do whatever you want.
Keep digging.
We're not giving away stuffed Astros. We're giving away shovels.
In session 101, how to dig a hole.
Session 2, how to build a grave.
How to piss off your biggest partner.
How to build a coffin.
How to get
bring a hammer.
How to get uninvited to many things.
Oh my goodness.
So the keynote, I thought
the opening keynote was completely underwhelming, if you ask me, and wrought with technical issues.
Yes.
Which, fine. It appeared as though they had last year's slide deck up there. I can't see how that's the hotel's fault, but if you want to blame the hotel, that's fine. Also, whoever vetted the fact that whenever you move to a slide, blaring dance music should just go off again. Yeah, no. Like, how about no? And then it was sort of all over the place. I didn't get what whoever that, I don't even remember her name. It was that forgettable. I'm sorry.
It was Einstein. It
was about AI.
Yeah,
it wasn't about AI.
Though. I guess that's where I would say content, like what I expect out of a community conference, and then the content they didn't match. Talking about AI so again, if you say, well, the community conference is really just it's the same content that you would get anywhere else,
right?
But it's just this area.
Go to your world tour.
Right.
Go to your world tour.
I think that's
that.
That's what I'd like to see as a differentiation.
By the way, world tours are free. Just saying.
Right.
I know you got to pay the bills. I get it.
No, yeah, they got to pay the bills.
World tours are free, and you're getting the polished version.
Right. I get that would be my thing. It's like spin it differently. Put together content that Salesforce wouldn't put together.
Yeah, because it's basically Kool-Aid in a different flavor.
Shock them. Like, let's do top 5 reasons not to use Lightning. Like, seriously.
Yeah, like let's get real about Lightning.
Yeah. Like, it's not ready. Lightning, not ready for prime time. What? Hashtag, I'm in a pit.
Right. Like, if you put that in as a session, I don't know if you would have gotten selected to actually do it.
To do it at Midwest Streamin'.
Right. Which is where you should be able to do that.
I agree. So there were some of that. Like, again, friend of the podcast, Roger Mitchell did a session that they wouldn't allow at a world tour.
Absolutely they would.
I don't think they would.
That's absolutely a developer thing. That is 100%.
I don't think they would.
I know they would have.
Well, I know that they rejected it for Dreamforce. That content. They didn't like it.
They did not like that?
Nope.
That's weird of them.
Well, again, and when he's doing it, he actually made comments about and said, hey, this is some stuff that is not great about what's happening, right? Here's some real limitations of the platform.
Well, then he did it. I mean, that was like the session I went to. He did a fine job of it. Well, he was talking to his audience, developers, right. And he did a fine job of skirting the line of these are the good things.
Right.
And here's some things to look out for.
There were a couple sessions that I didn't go to all of them. I mainly went to like network and to see employees, and that was like where I spent most of my time. There were a couple sessions that I know they got feedback from. There was one that was like how to manage as a woman in a man's world or something like that. That they got feedback. Like someone wrote some anonymous stuff to them and said that. So they were pushing the envelope. I just wish it had been from start to finish. That's all. But they're in a tough position because Salesforce is still the sponsor, right? Salesforce is still sending their people, and that's how they're sponsoring, right? Salesforce, I don't think writes them big checks. I don't think so. I don't know.
Yeah.
But Salesforce
getting Peter Coffey to show up at your event is worth something.
That's right. So that Salesforce puts in their thing and their people, and that's time and money. And I think that's where you have to draw that line. I just wish it had shifted, especially the keynote. I just wish the keynote had been a little bit more.
Well, it seemed like last year's was done by Erica Cool.
Right,
who's the perfect person to keynote a community conference.
Right. But then again, that's a Salesforce person, as opposed to where's the community person doing that keynote?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like it should. I know this is it's
keynote,
a crazy thought,
but
Salesforce almost shouldn't be invited.
That keynote could have been run by the person who started this conference, by Eric.
Right.
Why didn't he keynote it?
Get out there, Steve Jobs, that puppy. Elon Musk it. Wait,
it's your conference, awesome. Keynote it.
Huh. Anyway, hopefully constructive feedback. I did enjoy it. I already marked it in my calendar for next year.
I enjoyed it.
I will definitely go again.
I enjoyed.
I don't know how many others I would go.
That's about it.
But I like the community and I enjoy it, and I really enjoy the people, and just even seeing people I see twice or three times a year. And just chatting with them and getting their feedback on stuff, I think that's...
I'm going to earmark a few others to go to, but not that one.
Other Dreamins?
No, just other conferences that I have not yet attended that are somewhat new.
Oh, okay.
Like, I haven't been to the Trailhead X. I want to go to that.
Yeah. That just feels like Dreamforce. That's just Dreamforce.
I'd rather go to that.
Dreamforce 8 years ago.
Great. That's when I loved Dreamforce.
Right.
And fell in love with Dreamforce.
And it's much more just really admin all the time. It's less partner, less prospect, less whatever.
I want to go to Dreamforce where I can learn some stuff maybe and not like worry about like salesy things.
Yeah, it was my Trailhead, and that's why I did that was my theory. This year was, and why I went to all of them, is I really wanted to compare and contrast. What is the difference between Destination Success and Trailhead? What is the difference between Trailhead DX and a Dreamin'? What is the difference between a Dreamin' and a Dreamforce? So one of my blog posts that I just thought of that I will capture is at the end of the year, I should do a little comparison of all of them and say, hey, here's kind of why you would go to either one of these. There you go. Worth the value. All right, next time. I think Winter 18 is getting close. Pre-release sandboxes
today,
things.
I think.
Yeah, so that means
I think the notes hit. I think the pre-release notes hit today.
So then that means
I think I saw a notification today.
So great. So I think that means next time we can do some Winter 18 and we can talk about
your favorite topic.
My favorite topic.
Cartoons in enterprise software. That's what we should call it.
Let's make our CloudFocus app pick of the week because we haven't made one for over a month. What do you got?
I have an app that my dad told me about that I haven't used, but I downloaded.
Okay.
It's called Park NYC.
Okay.
All one word.
Okay. I'm excited.
And it's free, kinda.
Okay. A freemium. Not happy about that, but whatever.
Well, it's not freemium. It's free. The app itself is free, but what you're doing is you are paying for metered parking spots.
What? In advance.
With the app. No, when you park.
Yeah. I have a friend who uses this.
You park
because you can re-up wherever you are.
Well, you can't re-up.
Once.
Right. So there's some limitation there.
He tried to give me a thing. I've actually semi-used this.
My father was loving it. So whatever.
It replaces the functionality that you go to a parking spot, you have to get your ticket, you put it in your car.
And you also have to have like quarters.
Well, now
they take credit cards,
right. But then you still have to go back to the car. If you want an extra hour, you have to get wherever you're going and go back to the car. With this, You don't. You get one re-up. I don't know how long the period is, whatever it is, but you can do it from your phone and say, give me another hour.
And you also, it's much like a Metro card that refills or a Easy Pass. You fill it first with like $25, and then when you hit a certain threshold, it charges you again.
Awesome.
So that's why I say it's free. Kinda.
Right.
It's free, but you're using it to pay for stuff.
It's very cool. I love the appization of some of these things. And I will actually talk about another one that's kind of like the same thing, sort of. Scout for pet owners. So it is we have a dog, and to walk the dog, we used to have a dog walker we have to call or email, whatever. And then that dog walker actually started in our building and went from someone who was just like walking one or two dogs in the building to now has his own business where he has like 5 or 6 dog walkers and grooming services and whatever. And at some point he said to us, hey, you can't just call me anymore, even though you've been doing it for 10 years. You can't just call me. You have to actually use this app. So we got access to the app, and it's awesome. There is something really fun about going into this app. It has your information. It has your dog, right? So you go in. It has your dogs, if you had dogs, I guess, or pets. And you can go, okay, what do I need? Oh, I need to have a walk. I'm going to be late tonight. I need to have the dog walked. Great. Pick your dog. Pick your time. Pick what you want to have happen. Is it a walk? Is it a this? Is it that? Hand some notes in. Hit go. They then accept it or not, right? Because they can say, hey, we don't have anybody to walk your dog, but they pretty much accept it. Then the best part is, as then the dog gets picked up, it sends you a notification, your dog walking has started. Then you get an email and a thing on the app at the end that says your dog was walked, whether they peed or pooped. There's a picture, not of the pee or poop, but of the dog, like on the walk, and a map. So it does geo-tracking of where they walked. And then, of course, it says it was done. It tells you who did it, and it's great. It is great. I wish I had one for babysitting. I could just randomize, have a babysitter come. I wouldn't do that. But it is a great app. I think your dog walker service has to be using it. But if they are, awesome. I mean, awesome. It's like one of those things is like, there's an app for that, and that actually is amazing and works great. And you get an email receipt, and again, it shows you the map of where your dog walked. It's really good. We don't use it a lot because we're always home to walk the dog, but occasionally, like today, you have a scheduling conflict, and so it's really cool. Scout for pet owners. It is $0 to download, but it is to have your dog walked. See your local dog walking service. All right, that'll wrap up this week. You can follow us on Twitter at Justin Edelstein, at Jason M. Atwood, at Arkus Inc., Facebook.com/Arkus Inc., Success Community and Power of Us Hub. We have groups in either and or. We post all our podcasts in there so you can get them there. We post them on LinkedIn. We still post them on Google Plus until it dies. And we are on, if you really want to review it, be great. Actually, I don't know if we have any reviews in Google Play, which is new to us. I also got us into TuneIn the other day, which I'll tell another story, maybe a couple weeks. I'll tell what I did over my August. But I got us into TuneIn, which is a big podcast network as well. And so you can subscribe and review us in iTunes, Stitcher, Google, TuneIn, and lots of other places. We'd love to see it in there. And until next week, or the week after, I think it's the week after, it's Justin and Jason saying, enjoy those cloudy days.